Hi and welcome. I'm Laura. Today, this discussion is on pain perception, holistic pain management. There are a lot of people in pain right now, and I have been there. And I really wanted to bring awareness to the fact that perhaps pain is not our enemy. We are as humans, avoiding pain as much as we can, physical pain, mental, emotional pain. And when we change our perception about pain or really anything, the way we look at things, the things we look at can change. So, I wanted to introduce myself. First of all, my name is Laura Pfeiffer. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and I've had my own colorful health journey. And from that journey, I have pulled so many teachings and learnings for myself about myself. And while I know that we are all so different, and this is really important, I believe, to remember, because oftentimes in allopathic medicine, they put us into a box and they say you're in this box, and this box, and this box, and this box. But nobody really fits in the box. And that was exactly my own experience. So, several years ago, I got extremely sick. I nearly lost my life, and it became this struggle, if you will, to move past that. I have nearly lost my life twice to sepsis and some other complications that arose. So there was a lot of fear for me around being sick. And this continued for me. This was 2020 when I was in the hospital with no one around and no one able to see me. And I was really just left with myself and people telling me that I might not live, I might not see my children again, all of these things, and my body in extreme pain. So, going back a little bit, my body has always been very strong. I pride myself on taking care of myself, being active, eating well. And when my physical body shut down in 2020, I realized how out of balance other parts of me were. I have had a lot of trauma from when I was younger. And it's important to understand that trauma is different for all of us. And what is high on one person's trauma scale could be low on another's. But that doesn't mean it's any less traumatic for one person or the other. So it's important to understand that trauma manifests differently for each of us. And when we don't have the tools to navigate it, to feel it, to respond to it in a healthy way, the body stores it. The body doesn't forget. And so I've always been a very sensitive person. And from my own journey, I've found some different correlations in talking to others. And I do find that very sensitive, empathic people, from a small sample size, of course. I haven't done huge trial studies on this, but in my own experience with my own body, I was a very sensitive person. I took on a lot of people's stuff outside of me and made it mine, held it for them, tried to solve it, but I just didn't have the capacity to do it. So when I began to look at what was happening with me, I was in extreme pain. I had very little use of my physical body. And I noticed how emotionally and mentally imbalanced I was. I have a history with bipolar. My dad was bipolar and an alcoholic. I myself had postpartum depression, generalized anxiety disorder over my lifetime. So I've had a lot of colorful health issues. And don't get me wrong, I have used allopathic medicine as a tool when necessary. But for me, I found that allopathic medicine was really a band-aid. And so When I began to look deeper into what was really going on, I began to learn more about how the non-physical bodies, the spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, eventually manifest imbalance or dis-ease in the physical body. And so this was the catalyst to my shift in perspective on health. And this is what I share with others. This is how I hope to inspire others to think a little bit differently. Because when I began to understand that what was happening in my physical body was a reflection of something else, something in my emotions, I began to slowly develop my own tools and techniques to become more emotionally aware. And when we become more aware of our emotions, it becomes this beautiful opportunity to learn about ourselves. We spend so much time as humans avoiding pain, avoiding physical pain, avoiding emotional pain. But what if we shifted our perspective and began to embrace them as these opportunities for learning and connecting with ourselves? And so, this is exactly what my journey has been over the last many years, creating emotional awareness first within myself. So I had no idea how to feel my emotions. I was never taught that. So learning how to feel my emotions, identify them in my body. How does this emotion feel for me? When I'm in this anxious state, what happens? For me, it's a lot of heart palpitations. So beginning to understand the different emotions that I had and where they were being stored in my body, and then creating a process in order to begin to feel them and honor them and acknowledge them and release them. And this all comes from feeling safe. The root for many of us is not feeling safe. So when we begin to understand and be held in safe space, we can then begin to slowly and gently change. Change these patterns that for many of us we have carried for a very long time. And I know this can be a lot. This really involved me looking at myself being the root for a lot of my suffering. And that was not easy because I didn't have the capacity as a child to understand my experiences. I stored them in my body and they began to come up when it was time for me to begin to approach them as an adult in a different way. So, if you are experiencing pain in your body, there are a lot of people who are taking many, many allopathic medications, and over time, they don't work anymore. And as mentioned, I have much gratitude for allopathic medicine. When I was septic, allopathic medicine saved my life. But moving forward, it was holistic tools, practices, um, awareness, feeding the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies of mine in ways that resonated for me, that have helped me to regain better, more vital health than I ever had before. And it's truly a blessing. Now, this didn't happen overnight. And unfortunately, we've become this society that are conditioned to quick fixes. We want a pill. We want someone to take our hand, show us the way to do it, and then we'll just follow. And in my experience, how I've supported myself, how I support others in their own journeys, it's not that way. So we need to show up and do the work. And for some people, that will align, and for others, that won't. And that's okay. This is a session to perhaps get you thinking about the way that you approach your pain. Do you see it as a nuisance? Do you do anything that you can do to avoid it? For many of us, the answer is yes, and it was the same for me. Dr. Wayne Dyer says when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And for me, becoming friends with my pain, learning about my pain, feeling my pain, giving awareness and meaning and gratitude to my pain has become a complete game changer. And if this is something that resonates for you, I'd love for you to reach out. Um, I am very, very grateful for the journey that I've had. As mentioned, it's had a lot of different facets and colors. This has been about a 20 something year journey for me to get to the point that I'm at now. And there are many steps and stages. And along that journey, I always wanted to be further ahead. I always wanted to be where maybe someone else was or where I thought I should be. But what really has become apparent is that we are all exactly where we are. And the timing is right. Whether or not we like it or not, everything is happening at the right time. So if you are coming to new levels of awareness of your own role in your health, congratulations, you're at the right place. If this isn't quite something that you are ready to entertain yet, that's okay. Perhaps this will resonate for you at another time, or maybe you'll find another avenue that works. I can only share from my own personal experience what I know to be true in my body and what I've helped others find out for themselves. And the journey for me has been a lot about learning, learning about myself, learning about my tendencies, learning about how my past has influenced my presence, and now taking control of myself so that I create the future that I want. And I want that for you too. I think it's really important to understand a little bit about the physiology of the body. And when we begin to understand how the body works, I find it can be very empowering to know that we actually have some control over our health. And really, we are the only thing that we can control in this entire world and our entire lives. And when we are scared and we don't feel safe, which was exactly my experience, I used to try to control everything outside of me. And that didn't work very well. There was a lot of internal resistance, and my body speaking very, very loudly because the place that I needed to go was inside. And the only place that I was going was outside to try and micromanage everything around me. So if this resonates for you, sit with it, breathe into it, consider it. There is no shame in change. Change becomes this beautiful opportunity to see things and experience things differently in our lives. And just because we've always done something one way, it does not mean that we have to keep doing it that way. Some of us are stubborn, myself included. However, this 20 or so year journey has been very humbling. And I share this information with you out of love and support and really wanting to help others understand that they can suffer less. I share the tools that I have cultivated on my own journey in hopes that maybe they will help to support others. And so, physiologically, when we have emotional responses, when we have an external event, It triggers something emotionally inside of us. And if we are not emotionally aware, if we do not have interoceptive abilities, or we are not advanced and know what is happening in our bodies, then we miss that window because 2/100ths of a second after that emotion hits in the body, there is a stimulation in the mind, and we begin this mental, emotional, nervous system loop that is held deep in the subconscious. And 90% of what we experience is based on our subconscious. So that means that we do not have control of that. It is not available to our conscious minds until we begin the work to unravel some of these emotional patterns that have happened over time. So if we don't feel it in the body because we are not aware of our bodies, which is what I find a lot and what was definitely a big part of my journey, when we begin to find emotional awareness, we can eventually begin to destabilize these nervous system loops. So if you don't feel it in your body, it starts in your head. You begin to find thoughts in the head. And for many of us, especially myself, it was these downward spirals of thoughts. A lot about, perceived anxiety of the future and what could happen and all of these things. And then it stimulates those emotions associated with it in your body. And so you just keep over and over again triggering these loops over and over again. And that is also associated with the stress response, cortisol. Cortisol has many negative effects on the body, hormonal imbalance, gaining weight. It's very, very hard on the organs. Digestively, everything slows down. So your body is now taking a hit after hit each time you have this emotional trigger. So it becomes this vicious cycle, and we're playing these cycles over and over again for years, decades, some of us our entire lives. And this is where empowering ourselves to understand what is happening to our bodies and begin to break that cycle can be this beautiful opportunity to work toward creating healthy, lasting change. When we have been sick, and I understand this, there is, for many of us, a lot of fear because we fear going back into that state of illness. And there is also this correlation between what we think and what manifests in our lives, what we think we create. And so if we are constantly in these nervous system loops and we are not taking control of them, we are not changing them, our thoughts are creating what is going to happen next. And so if we are constantly in fear about being in pain or being sick or whatever it is, the probability of us creating that in our lives is extremely high. But again, if we can interrupt this process that triggers that cortisol, that stress hormone response that keeps the nervous system in the fight or flight loop, if we can interrupt this process, we can create an entirely new outcome for ourselves. I know I am living it. And it all begins, in my opinion, in my experience, with finding present moment awareness. And the best way that we can do that is through our breath. It is free. It is with us all of the time. The breath has the capacity to override the nervous system. So when we are in fight or flight, sympathetic, stress-induced states, if we come to our breath and practice different breathing techniques, even just inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 4 for a period of time, maybe a couple of minutes, we will be able to gradually pull ourselves out of those toxic and harmful nervous system states in our bodies. and begin to recalibrate. So again, I hope that this information is going to provide you some sort of perspective and be useful for you and your journey. Maybe share it with somebody who you feel it may resonate for, and maybe it might not be quite the time for you to hear this or to entertain it, and that's okay. Everyone is exactly where they need to be at the right time. So feel free to reach out. I'll have some upcoming offerings that we can begin to explore some of this together. Somatics are an opportunity to begin to get into our bodies, to begin to connect with emotions, to begin to learn to feel them and process them in a healthy way. And this is where my focus continues to be when I am helping and supporting people. Helping people by holding space to get you into your body, to begin to understand what your body is trying to tell you. Our bodies are containers for emotions. Emotions, when not processed, show up in the body eventually as physical imbalance, dis-ease, pain, and other sensations. And if we can begin to understand, shift our perspective, and embrace what's going on within our bodies, doesn't necessarily mean we have to like it, but these emotions can become a very valuable tool in our healing process. So thank you for your time today, for listening, and check out my podcast, Feel, Peel, Thrive. I talk about lots of different holistic perspectives on health with great people. And laurapfeiffer.com is my website. Check out more information here if that resonates for you. Thank you again, and I wish you the best of luck and health on your journey.